First, however, we have to get into some, I'm going to say exciting news because I'm excited for Kat McNamara. Is it McNamara? I'm going to say McNamara. Who got cast as Abby Walker? We have our Abby Walker, you guys, for Walker Independence. Did this move the needle for some excitement? Not just for the actress, but for the series?
Can you believe we were all wrong?
I know.
Like we were right though that they picked like a CW legacy actress. Like she's been around. So um I I think I'm excited about it. I do have some concerns, but we can get into that in a little bit. If Michael's excited about it, I'd be happy to hear about that before I get into some negative things.
Well, of all everyone who's made their choices for fan casting, I was the closest. I picked the Canary, but it was actually the Green Arrow who got cast. The Green Arrow and the Canaries fan in me is a little upset because it's another sign we may not see the story continue. But in general, I'm a big fan of Kat, and I'm very, very excited to see her on a new show get that leading role she was kind of robbed of 2 years ago. So I'm very excited for the show itself now, and I wasn't beforehand. And it really does go to show you how a casting can make you more intrigued by it. And yeah, I'm definitely going to give it a go now.
I feel like it also pushed me to be like, pass the pilot then. Only because I was thinking, I don't know what her chemistry with Matt Barr will be since he's playing Hoyt Rollins, but I want to see her kick some tail in the West. I'm not that excited about Abby Walker's description because being an affluent Bostonian and also a tough-minded woman has me like, incongruous, maybe. Am I being like, is that shallow? I don't know, but the descriptions for who the characters are going to be in the show haven't been hitting for me.
Yeah, okay. So I have two concerns here. My main concern is, which is something I feel like I've talked about before, which is just based on casting, that if this goes past the pilot stage, I feel like it has underrated written all over it. Like her fans will show up. Like she has the Shadowhunters mafia or whatever they are behind her. Like they will show up at least on Twitter. But it just feels like, just based on, for me, this is my thought alone, like I'm not going to try to project on anybody else, but just based on the projects that the actors cast so far have been in, they've all been pretty short-lived. And I don't want that to happen, believe me. Like I want this to be successful for them. I want this to be the one that hits, but I'm kind of apprehensive. I'm worried that lightning won't strike for this one. My second concern is that she is Catherine McNamara, however you said her name. She's 26 years old and Matt Barr is 38. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the character ages. Like we can suspend our disbelief because Matt Barr doesn't look like he's 38. But I worry that it will extend the trope of in a heterosexual couple on television, the male lead is older than the female lead. And we just kind of have to, deal with that. It's something like, even look at Dynasty, like Grant Show is older than Daniela Alonso. It happens on a lot of shows. But I'll be interested to see what that dynamic is, if they are like a potential romantic couple ship. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too far ahead.
It's an interesting point, and one that I hadn't considered. But true, it's very true that the age difference tends to be quite stark. I mean, they might have him play younger since he doesn't look like he's 38, but we could also. I don't want any little lady comments coming from him for her. I mean, obviously,
No.
based on Abby's just like character description, she wouldn't take that. But I don't want them to be weird with with their age difference. So perhaps we could just have Matt play like he's 34 or something.
She could
Yeah.
be playing older than 26 as well. I don't know. We don't know Abby's story, but her husband was murdered. So I don't know. She's old enough to be married. I say that as someone who's almost 30 and I'm like, she's married in 26. I still feel like a child.
Right there with you. I feel like, the age, she was younger than I expected the actors to be cast. I know we all picked actors that were in their 30s or late 30s or mid 30s.
Yeah, like mid 30, yeah.
Yeah, so I can see where you're coming from with that, particularly because of the age gap. I do wonder if they'll play it like her being older and him being younger to shorten that age gap. But yeah, just on paper, I do see your point now quite a lot. She is younger than I expected, but like I said, this is the CW. They do like to suspend your disbelief when it comes to younger and older people.
I also didn't know that she was that young. I was shocked when I Googled her and I was like, oh, 26.
I did the same in her Arrow days, so I get that.
But she wasn't the only casting news that we had. So I feel like they've started to round their main cast out now. We have Greg Havanessian, who's going to play Sheriff Tom Davidson. I'm going to assume that he is our big bad, mainly because he's described as having a charming smile, but like Abby thinks this man is basically the devil. And I don't know if that's because he stepped into the role her husband would have had in Independence, Texas, which is the sheriff. Um, and she's just doesn't care for the man because of it, or it's because he really is a bad man and she has to stop him from doing some terrible things in town. There's also Lawrence Cow, who's going to play Kai. He runs the local laundry and is a former railroad worker who's described as having a kind face. And he's the first friendship that she strikes up in town, and he gives her some advice about independence. I'm assuming that means to lay low. There's a weird, in reading the descriptions, do you guys think that there's some weirdness going on with independence? Like, it's like, you'll find your found family, but also watch out in Independence, Texas.
Yeah, the sheriff is giving Hiram Lodge vibes. But I do like this local laundry guy or person, I don't know. Seems like a good time.
Yeah,
It
it does sound
does.
like they've struck up some interesting dynamics just reading from the descriptions. I mean, we all need a villain at some point, and it sounds like the sheriff might be it. And yes, Hiram Lodge is a good example of that. Yeah, I'm intrigued by how many, like you said yourself, there's been a lot of casting this week, and with obviously casting comes characters, and I feel like the cast's really starting to round itself out. And the dynamics are quite different. So I know what you mean by the whole drawing, like make yourself at home, but also be careful kind of vibe we're getting from it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to land on how to interpret Independence, Texas. Um, because is this a wholesome show with some action involved? Like, it's going to be really cute with the this ensemble cast, or is this like the rough, tough West, and Abby has to rough it in Independence, Texas, and get used to not being an affluent Bostonian because she's now become a settler. But besides Kat, the casting that I'm really excited for is Philemon Chambers as Deputy Sheriff Augustus. He was in Single All the Way, and I love that Netflix Christmas movie.
So
And
good.
very good if you have not watched it. Like, finish our podcast episode and then go get your life on Netflix. But Deputy Sheriff Augustus works closely with the sheriff, obviously. But what's intriguing about him is not only is he polite, even tempered, and always willing to lend a hand, he's keeping his opinion of the sheriff close to his vest. Like, he's not letting anybody know how he feels about Tom. And I'm like, is that because you know Tom is a bad man, but you're trying to keep your job? Or that's what I'm going to assume it is. And how that dynamic would work out would be interesting to me.
Yeah, there's some tea there, and I feel like Deputy Sheriff Augustus is gonna align himself with Abby Walker.
Mm, I like that.
But to your point, I'm struggling with Walker Independence just because I feel like I can't see the vision. And I know that's hard because we haven't seen any footage, any photos, because it's not even filmed and it's not a real show technically. And this might shock everybody, but I have not watched Walker, so I don't know like what tone are we going for either. But it does sound interesting as we learn more about it.
Yeah, and the deputy casting, if that sounds like it has as many layers as the show itself, you're not really sure what to make of that relate partnership he's got with the sheriff. Does he know he's a bad man, like you said? I feel like it's interesting because I wasn't that interested in the show. And even though the image they've painted here is very conflicting, that makes me more interested in it than the original synopsis did. So I'm definitely up for giving it a try, just based on, okay, what's going on here? I need answers kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be checking it out. And I do believe that the deputy sheriff might be the most interesting character here. So I might just watch for him and Kat McNamara, but we'll say.
I feel the same. And then I guess we can just like get to know the other characters if it gets full orders to series instead of just doing the pilot. I do want to give the show more of a chance than I have been, and yes, that is because of Philemon. like the casting came out, I was like, dang it, I have to like change how I was feeling now.